Okay, we have short time, so let us begin. Thank you all for coming here today and welcome. This is the high-level roundtable on urban climate finance at COP29. I'm Joanna Masic. I'm from the World Bank, and I will be co-chairing this session together with my colleague Lynn O'Grady from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And together we chair a group of MDBs that work on the city space with the aim of being able to collectively dialogue on these issues with a broad group of stakeholders like you today. So this session will be an open discussion on the topic of urban climate finance and the challenges and opportunities from different perspectives. And since we have a tight time and a lot of people to hear from, we will be keeping the time tight, and I apologize for that in advance. But let me move straight to opening remarks from the SCUPA chairman, Mr. Anar Gulieva, from the State Committee on Urban Planning and Architecture. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to join you today on this roundtable on urban climate finance, which address one of the most pressing challenges of our time, the need for innovative and equitable financing mechanisms to support urban climate actions. At COP29, where the focus is on financing for climate action, we are reminded of the pivotal role that urban areas play in both the challenges and solutions to climate change. Over 55% of the world's population currently lives in urban areas, a figure expected to exceed 60% by 2030. The UN estimates that urban areas are responsible for 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions, yet they also represent the solution to the problem. By investing in sustainable infrastructure, green buildings, and resilient urban systems, cities can drive the transition to low-carbon, climate-resilient future. But to unlock this potential, we need adequate financing. This is where the topic of urban climate finance becomes crucial and why this roundtable is so important. We recognize that addressing climate change through urbanization will not be possible without mobilizing the necessary financial resources. The investments needed to transform cities into engines of sustainability and resilience are vast. It is estimated that 3.5 trillion per year is required globally to meet the climate goals in urban areas, encompassing areas such as green infrastructure, energy-efficient buildings, public transport systems, and disaster resilience. The financial needs to build resilient, sustainable cities are enormous. From retrofitting buildings to improve energy efficiency, to investing in green infrastructure, enhancing urban resilience against climate impacts, the costs are significant. COP29 places a renewed focus on long-term financing commitments, exploring how public and private investments can be better mobilized to fill the financing gap. Private sector financing is now recognized as an essential driver of climate solutions. In Azerbaijan, we understand the importance of strategic financing. We are committed to creating the right conditions for both public and private investments in green infrastructure, energy efficiency, and sustainable urban development. In particular, in the deoccupied post-conflict territories of Azerbaijan, where urban renewal and reconstruction are critical, the developed public-private partnerships model allows us to attract the private funding to the large-scale urban regeneration while addressing the climate challenges we face. The MAP declaration that we launched this morning emphasized the need for financing to address climate change at the city level, ensuring that urban populations, particularly the most vulnerable, benefit from sustainable and climate-resilient development. Financing for nature-based solutions with emphasis on how private sector investment as well as PPPs can be mobilized to scale these solutions in urban areas. Nature-based solutions not only help to absorb carbon and protect biodiversity, but also offer cities an opportunity to reduce the urban heat island effect, improve air quality more sustainably while engaging communities and generating green jobs. However, we also recognize that cities cannot address these challenges alone. We need global partnership, innovative financial models, and the support of the international community to ensure that our cities are both climate resilient and inclusive. I urge all stakeholders here today to engage in constructive discussions. Together, we must build a financial ecosystem that not only supports urban climate action, but also ensures that this action benefits all residents, especially the most vulnerable. Today in this meeting, where financial institutions, multi-development banks like World Bank, EBRD, ADB and others go through discussions, they will be able now and later to develop such mechanisms that will ensure the outreach of all the cities and the most vulnerable to the urban climate funding. We look forward to exciting discussions and outcomes of this roundtable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Gulieva, for highlighting the importance of finance for cities and the important role cities play in meeting our climate goals. Let me pass the floor to Anna Claudia Rosbach from the UN Habitat.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Your Excellencies, friends, old colleagues. I also come from MDBs, from the World Bank too. Ladies and gentlemen. So a few remarks from our end. From UN Habitat, at the World Urban Forum, we just launched the World Series report on climate. And in this report, we noted that cities and urban areas require an estimate of 4.5 to 5 trillion annually up to 2030 to invest in new or retrofitted climate-resilient infrastructure. And right now, cities are only able to secure a fraction of that, 7 to 8%. So it's surely not enough. If we fail to plan and finance low-emission and resilient urban infrastructure, housing, and basic services, our action will not only exacerbate poverty, but also lock cities and nations into unproductive urban forms and will significantly impair local climate mitigation and adaptation. Cities, especially informal settlements, bear the brunt of these consequences. I would like to highlight 3 aspects in terms of opportunities to promote effective local planning, participatory governance and finance, and increase the financial flows and leverage the impact of investment in cities. The first is on land. Land is a central piece, land policies and land planning is a central piece for unlocking land. And there are 3 aspects on that. First, informal settlements. It's very difficult to promote investment in informal settlements. Normally, ownership of land is not clear in these areas, and this is a bottleneck for cities, national governments, and also for MDBs to promote operation in these areas. The other aspect is that through land policies and through land planning, we are able to identify underutilized vacant spaces in cities and maximize the supply of land in cities, and also work around densification policies around densities. So it's very important, the land aspect in terms of enabling the investments in areas that that are not benefiting from investments right now. The second aspect is on the financial side, and I believe we are all working on that front as well, is to design the instruments, the guarantees, recognizing also the key strategic aspect of concessional funding. And this is an area where we achieved, I believe, on a separate note already, progress in terms of discussions. We just had recently similar table during the World Urban Forum in Cairo, Egypt, and many ideas came out of this round table. And the third aspect of land is that land can also generate revenues to cities. So through urban planning, through land policies, we can also increase the revenues such as property tax and use other land-based finance instruments to strengthen cities fiscally. So if we talk about increasing the participation of cities within the international financial architecture, it's very important that we work on strengthening the revenues at city level as well. Finally, we really need to ensure that the finance reaches our cities and lands where it's needed most, including vulnerable and informal settlements, and also aligned with a vision of cities that we want. Cities that follows the principles stated and agreed among countries through the new urban agenda. One major challenge that we have is to review and integrate urban and financial regulatory frameworks so that they speak to our different contexts. And for me, this is the challenge that we have from the urban planning side, from UN Habitat side, with the MDBs. So join hands to see that urban plans, urban laws, financial regulations, they speak to each other and they are connected. In terms of roadmap, of course, we are all discussing that, the importance of increasing and articulate the revised NDCs so that we really recognize the urban aspect. But there is a roadmap. I already mentioned the World Urban Forum. We have the Fourth Financing for Development Conference to be held next year in Spain. This is an incredibly important opportunity for us also to change and to offer inputs in the revision of the international development finance system, aligning climate finance, urban finance, development finance, and really develop mechanisms for targeting cities and subnational entities. We are in that together, the coalitions that were announced this morning, the CHAMP, but also the MAP. We are in that together with the banks, walking this roadmap and also towards the next COP, and hopefully we'll have a fruitful year of debate and creativity, but also action moving ahead, identifying practices and exchanging among each other. So I will stop now, and I'm really looking forward and listening to you in this discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman and Executive Director. We've heard from you about the need to increase finance, but also to make sure that it reaches where it is needed most, and that we need to set out a roadmap together to make that happen. So without further ado, I will move on to ask our representatives from the multilateral development banks working across the globe to make a short 2-minute intervention on what needs to be done to ensure more financing flows to cities, and for that financing to have the outcomes that will be impactful for climate change. And let me pass first to the representative from the World Bank.
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, Ministers, Mayors, ladies and gentlemen. Really nice to be with you here today with my colleagues from other MDBs and also bilateral organizations. I think we all recognize cities are critical to devise the solution needed to tackle climate change. Yet we also know that cities cannot do this alone because they face numerous barriers to access the finance needed. We need to work collectively, we think, how to increase the flow of subnational finance for climate actions. The reality is that most cities suffer from, one, a subpar level of expenditure relative to the need. Second, the low level of own resources generation. And third, extremely limited private investments for public infrastructures at the urban setting. The barrier underlying this require improvement and changes to institutional, legal, and political systems that are not quick to solve. but solve them we must. And this requires effort in 4 main areas. First, we really need to support reforms and strengthen the basic systems and conditions that constrain urban infrastructure investment, what we call the fundamentals. And this is really core part of our engagements in the urban sector at the World Bank. Second, we really need to see immediate opportunity to boost urban investments, notwithstanding the various barriers that remains. I think working with other partners, we have developed this City Climate Financing Gap Fund is one such a instrument to help cities in this regard. Third, we need to find better way to expand the volume of fiscal flows to municipal government for investing in local infrastructure, while providing powerful incentive to improve the institutional and delivery performance. At the World Bank, we invest in urban performance grant as an incentive system in over the last 2 decades to incentivize cities to improve their performance. And the final area is about leveraging private investments through de-risking. As you know that we have recently revamped our guarantee platform so that we can provide more de-risking for cities. And I think fundamentally, I think all these 4 areas is leading to the fact that we need to improve the city's creditworthiness, because cities need to leverage the future revenue for investing that are immediate present. Until and unless cities themselves are creditworthy, it's really difficult for them to attract private investments. So really look forward to hear from my colleagues and see how we can work together. At the World Bank, we invest annually between $7 to $8 billion, which is really small compared to the total need. But we certainly want to use that catalytic financing to leverage much more financing from others, from private sector, to support our city clients. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So let us move directly on to the representative from EBRD.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, colleagues, and friends and partners. On behalf of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and I think also for the wider multilateral development bank community, I would really like to welcome and share the outcomes and next steps from the Finance Roundtable, which is jointly organized by the MDBs with the COP29 presidency and UN Habitat. Today is an important day to highlight the crucial role of cities in combating climate change, and with that, the immense need of support they require. Executive Director Rosbach just mentioned a sobering figure about what is needed. Where this money comes from should come from public financial institutions, from the development banks, but also crucially and increasingly so from the private sector. MDBs have been working together for several years to provide an harmonized approach to local climate action and to complement each other capacity and resources. I'd like to express our commitment as MDB City Group to acknowledge the call for action and emphasize the MDBs and the EBRD for sure committed to continue scaling up technical assistance and urban climate finance to support cities achieve the objectives of the Paris Agreement, where local climate action is critical. To achieve this commitment and overcome the challenges posed, we collectively reiterate our commitment to accelerate climate finance, including through concessional funds, subnational lending, and guarantee instruments to leverage the private sector, which is critical to achieve, to bridge the financing gap. We also commit to engage extensively with city leaders and city networks, focusing on scaling up climate finance, but also to bring climate adaptation at the core of climate action for cities. And finally, we collectively aim to work collaboratively and welcome broader partnerships, which are needed to address the financing gap. Examples of such partnerships include initiatives such as CHAMP, which was launched last year at COP28, and the MAP declaration launched today. Many thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. Let's ask the representative from the European Investment Bank.
Dear co-chairs, ministers, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting the European Investment Bank to speak today on a topic which is of high importance for us. The EIB is the EU's bank, the climate bank, that finances projects and clients, public and private, inside the EU, but also in developing countries all around the world. We have committed to be Paris-aligned in all our financing activities since 2020, and we have a target to exceed 50% green finance. Cities are key in all the sub-actions that are required for both of these. They are key in us delivering on our green financing, low-carbon solutions, including nature-based solutions, and innovative new financial solutions to deliver different types of financing to different scales, including in the urban context. We now have an adaptation plan, and cities are a critical part of that, where we are driving up our adaptation finance, but by also working in partnership with others. And lastly, a very important part of our climate bank roadmap, where cities are key, is linking the social and climate discussion together and addressing such matters as gender-responsive climate action, for example, in urban transport and in housing. We have many programs which are specifically for climate action in cities, and I'm only going to list a couple because I think they're very relevant. One is ELENA, which focuses on scaling up, supporting cities to scale up and accelerate energy efficiency and renewable energy investments, social housing, which is energy efficient and resilient, and low carbon urban transport. We also, together with the World Bank and GIZ, have set up the GAP Fund for cities, as my colleague from the World Bank mentioned. This is for cities in developing countries, and it's co-managed by the EIB and the World Bank. And it is a fantastic way of delivering and supporting what is the gap between the plans and the actual projects which can be financed. There is a partnership forum for the GAP Fund, which brings also all the city networks, and many of you are here in the room today, together with the donors, together with the different financing entities, which is really important for sharing knowledges and avoiding reinventing the wheel on this important topic. We're working with the other MDBs in supporting countries, but also subnational entities, cities and regions on their climate plans. That was part of our joint statement that we made to the COP last week on Tuesday. Our long-term strategy program is for countries, but also for cities. Lastly, I would just like to highlight that when we talk about cities, we also have to think about small municipalities, not just large cities. Our experience at the EIB is there are many ways to try and tackle this, but one of them is to try and reach small municipalities through dedicated credit lines, through local banks, which can be national promotional banks or commercial banks, to try and reach out at small scale for investments in buses, low carbon buildings for schools and so on. So in conclusion, through our climate working group and the cities working group, the MDBs are working together, and the EIB, both as the EU's bank and as an MDB, is very happy to be here listening to you and engaging on this critically important part of the climate discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us move swiftly on to the Asian Development Bank.
Thank you, and a very good afternoon to everyone. So ADB remains committed to scaling up urban climate financing by working with the national and local governments, as well as the private sector and philanthropies. More than half of ADB's urban sector operations are climate financing, with the last year being 53%, and we intend to at least keep this level for the years to come. Today, I would like to highlight the importance of three matters: planning, financing, and funding. So ADB is supporting various plans at the city level, such as spatial plans, risk-based urban plans, or city climate action plans, aligned with NDC and NAP. So these plans will identify priority urban investments that improve urban service delivery while addressing cities' vulnerabilities, strengthening resilience, and reducing GHG emissions. Financing means full pay for the upfront investment costs. So currently, the creditworthiness of local governments is rather low in attracting private sector financing. AD is supporting this through the Creating Investable Cities initiative and other TAs to help them access directly the capital market. In parallel, national governments may wish to revisit the regulatory or legal constraints that prevent subnational borrowing, because many countries, particularly in Asia and Pacific, have some restrictions of the subnational lending directly from the external sources. When we look at the funding, meaning full pay ultimately for the services delivered, We know that many countries have limited fiscal decentralization. ADB is working in many countries to strengthen own-source revenue generations, such as water tariffs, user charges, and property tax enhancement. Moreover, in Indonesia, ADB is currently supporting drafting of regulations on land value capture by subnational governments through policy-based loans and technical assistance. In parallel, the budget allocation formula by the central government to the subnational governments needs to be improved to make it more transparent and predictable while incentivizing strong municipal governance. This will also help attract financing from the private sector. We look forward to engaging in further discussions in this urban climate finance agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for keeping to time. We're going to keep it tight, so I will, if you see my face, it means your time is up. And I will move directly to the Islamic Development Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. So on behalf of the Islamic Development Bank, it is a great pleasure that I share our efforts to financing urban development while addressing climate change in our member countries. So the Islamic Development Bank's investment in the urban sector amount to approximately $8 billion in net approvals as of December 23. Our active climate action projects in the urban sector include support to early warning systems and flood management in cities such as Cotonou and Lomé in West Africa, or building affordable climate resilient housing in cities such as Bishkek, Dhaka, or Djibouti. The affordable housing sector has been a great focus lately. Indeed, 15 of ISDB member countries have greater than 50% of their urban population living in slums, which with some extreme cases reaching 80 to 90%. Climate risks such as excessive heat or floods are the major threats to the dense population living in informal settlements in many sub-Saharan African countries, for instance. We need innovation, we need affordable and green technology and materials to significantly increase the number of affordable and climate-informed house units. This cannot be done by public financing alone. We need the private sector and innovative funding mechanisms, such as leveraging Islamic debt market resources for climate action. The ISDB has been doing it using green and sustainable sukuk, which are the Islamic bonds, which can be explored for cities. Since 2002, the bank has approved more than 5.5 billion in critical financing, climate financing, 47% of which was dedicated to adaptation, underscoring our commitment to climate action. So we really look forward to working with all of our peer MDBs and other stakeholders to address these very critical issues. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And then the International Finance Corporation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to focus on 2 points today, and that's financing and digital tools, planning tools. We know that governments, city and subnational governments, need to undertake many projects at the subnational level. However, subnational borrowers are typically prevented from undertaking projects at these levels because they often rely on sovereign guarantees and hesitate to take on commercial debt because even though they have significant untapped capacity because of the sovereign guarantees, they hesitate to take on the debt. Meanwhile, emerging markets contribute approximately half to global GDP, and but their total subnational debt stock, excluding China, is only about 8.6%. So there's significant capacity to borrow at the subnational level. So transitioning to market-based borrowing is where we need to go, can address the financing gap. but it is challenging due to the potential increased costs and charges for citizens and end users. And to overcome that, cities need to improve service quality before they're able to increase charges for concession, and therefore they require transitional concessional financing. All this points to a need for a strong need for programmatic blended finance solutions that would help cities adopt a holistic approach towards development projects at the subnational level. Concessional funds that enable sustainability-linked financing for cities in emerging markets would help local governments balance priorities that enable them to achieve climate goals while delivering on important public services. The second topic I'd like to touch on is digital tools that can help subnational governments in planning for the needed investments. IFC's APEX program is a digital tool that helps cities identify, quantify, and prioritize urban climate finance opportunities and policy interventions in a holistic manner. It leverages the data-driven digital APEX tool to analyze a city's environmental footprint in terms of carbon emissions across key sectors such as energy and built environment, transport, waste, and water. And then we help cities develop the Green City Action Plans to provide comprehensive roadmaps outlining specific activities to reduce GHG emissions, including investments, policies, and planning measures. And finally, the APEX Climate Investment Opportunities Diagnostics provide an optimal investment plan based on analysis and prioritization of potential investments across different urban sectors.
Thank you.
We look forward to supporting city governments, subnational governments in implementing their investment plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that concludes our session, and I hope you see that the MDBs have shown up in force today with a commitment and tools and instruments to offer to this complex challenge, but we are here and ready for this dialogue. But let us now move on to hear from ministers. We have a good range of ministers gathered here today, so let me kick off by asking Malaysia if you'd like to step up. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Your Excellencies. I know that time is of the constraint. I only have 5 simple points. That I think is about time all countries should launch a national energy transition plan. Malaysia has just launched it to target that 70% of the renewable energy should be at least to achieve by 2050. So if we are serious about carbon footprint, the renewable energy should be one of the top priority of financing. Number 2, Paris Agreement has been signed since 2016. It's about time for us to reflect upon ourselves. What is the shortcoming? What is stopping us from achieving what we have agreed upon? This time, wait and tight wait for no man. So we call on a comprehensive master plan. There must be a unit, maybe headed by United Nations, to always monitor and make sure that what we have agreed can be implemented. Number 3, there must also be a tangible and measurable KPI. There's no point that every year we come, as I always ask myself, how many COPs we actually need? This is already COP29. Are we going to have COP100? I do not know. There's a question everyone should ask. And number 4, it's important. We have so many bankers, big banks, World Bank, Asia Bank, Islamic banks, all here. So can all the banks, apart from making profits, also make top priority that green financing being one of the important priority? If we are serious about saving the earth, we are serious about climate change. So I think that we do not bring money to heaven. So it's important that let's save the earth first. Okay, I may be a bit blunt because time is a constraint. And I think that last but not the least, it is important to have a 4P principle. This cannot just depend on government per se. Government allocation is limited, and many governments is actually running deep in debt. It's important we to have a 4P principle that the people, public, private partnerships, we should get everyone together and maybe chair and headed by United Nations, form a permanent secretariat, always have a measurable roadmap, KPI to be achievable. Hope that this is my humble opinion that can have some input in this high-level discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very clear and direct. Let me move now to Morocco. And please, if we can keep the time, I think we're doing well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to speak in this important roundtable on climate fairness in the name of the Ministry of the Interior and Subnational Government of the Kingdom of Morocco. Since the rise in recognition of the role of state actors in global climate action since the Paris Agreement in 2015, the General Directorate of Territories Collectivities Ministry of Interior has accompanied this momentum and initiated several actions aimed at strengthening the position and capacities of local and regional authorities in favor of climate action. Since 2016, in particular, the DG State has been actively involved in international climate events, notably the COPs, mobilizing large delegation comprising senior executives from the Ministry of the Interior and elected representatives from authorities. And during COP22 in Marrakech, the Ministry of Interior organized the second World Summit of local and regional elected officials for the climate and the name Financing Sustainable Transformation of Territories, which saw over 1,200 participants. Since the Ministry of Interior has made a greater contribution of defining a national text of the kingdoms of climate policy in order to position local authorities and advance the recognition and key players and process in the success of the state's climate commitment in addition to sectoral strategies. In 2018, initiative the expertise program of such climate finance, PIFCLI, in partnership with Moroccan Association of Mayors, MPCC, the Association of the Region of Morocco, and the Global Fund of Cities Development, FMDV. One of the main results was the production of a guide of climate finance for Moroccan cities and region. In 2019, the Ministry of Interior launched the national program of institutional, strategic, and technical support of the preparation of local and regional climate projects called SISTIF with the same partner of the PIFCLI. The program aimed to set up a national climate seal. Within the Ministry of Interior, developed a pipeline of local climate projects and improved the international position of climate action by Morocco's territories. Also, in 2021, the Ministry of Interior launched the Improving Access to Climate Financing in Morocco's region project with the Global Green Growth Institute's GGA. This program has resulted in the development of 10 climate project files in the Launch Green Climate Fund criteria for the benefit of the pilot region in the Kingdom of Guide to drawing up proposal for the Green Climate Fund, and local authorities was also produced along with the training course. Finally, in 2024, the Digesty of the Mohammed VI Foundation for the Protection of the Environment launched a consultation aimed specifically at strengthening regional councils' ability to access climate finance and structure bank project. The new project is based on two parallel components. The first, the design of a mapping of climate fund access by the region, by sector, and by instrument. The second, the structuring of 12 climate projects from the planning document of each region of the Kingdom via practical result-oriented training program.
Thank you very much. If you can conclude.
I finished my chair.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thank you very much indeed. Let me ask the representative from Samoa.
Esteemed colleagues and distinguished delegates, it's a privilege to address you today on the topic of urban climate finance and the partnerships necessary to accelerate climate action in our cities. Before I do so, I wish to emphasize the unique challenges faced by Pacific small island developing states like Samoa in addressing the impacts of climate change. Our unique socio-economic context necessitate tailored urban planning and resilience strategies that differ significantly from those applied in larger, more developed urban centers. Thus, while small island states, or SIDS, like Samoa may not resemble large metropolitan cities in scale or infrastructure, they constitute urban characteristics that require focused attention and innovative solutions to address their specific vulnerabilities and enhanced resilience. Excuse me. In that regard, we call for the establishment of elevated urban partnerships, such as the Pacific Urban Partnership. The initiative should advocate for objectives of the new urban agenda with specific consideration to the unique climate crisis cities like Samoa face. Quality partnerships must prioritize the voices and needs of vulnerable cities in CIT's context, ensuring that our local contexts drive the climate action agenda. We must also increase commitments from MDBs and DFIs to support resilient urban infrastructure investment projects in CITs like Samoa through simplified access to grant-based financing. These institutions play a crucial role in mobilizing resources and providing technical assistance that enhances our urban climate resilience. We encourage partnerships with regional financing mechanisms such as the Pacific Resilience Facility, designed as a Pacific-led, member-owned facility that focuses on providing accessible financing for community-driven resilience initiatives, particularly, again, addressing the unique challenges cities like Samoa face. Furthermore, and lastly, as with negotiation on NCQG, we called for improved transparency in urban climate financing, regular reporting on funding flows, project outcomes, and impacts will build trust among stakeholders and ensure accountability. Data sharing initiatives will enable better assessment of our urban climate finance needs and progress towards achieving our climate goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me ask the representative from Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, Excellencies here present. I want also to thank the previous speakers for the information given to us. And I would also want to inform you that as Africa, we held our first urban forum in Addis Ababa, and we made a declaration. And in our declaration, we talked about like 5 key things, which included political will, institutional frameworks for our member states, then resource mobilization and finance, which we are talking about right now. We also talked about capacity development, knowledge, reporting, and accountability by the member states, and strengthening partnerships, advocacy, outreach, and communication. As we are here right now, this is a call to what was agreed upon in Addis Ababa. But in addition, I would say that we need to help the development partners. You need to help our member states to be sure to prepare themselves for the creditworthiness. Because if a member state is not yet ready for the finances, how do we get them some money to ensure that they can ably prepare for the projects which they want to take on? Then we are also talking about land tenure security is very key, because if land is not titled, land is not properly planned, it means that we cannot even get the local resources we are talking about. How do we help African states to ensure that we have land tenure security, but also land use plan is put in place to have our African countries also benefit ably? Then another issue I would call upon the development partners, affordable finances for low-cost houses, for the houses in the formal settlements, and also for the social houses for our government workers. You realize that much as we are looking at improving the housing, we need money which is affordable, money which is not going to compete with the private sector, because a private person coming into the housing estate, they are looking for profits. But remember, these are people vulnerable whom we are looking up to. So how do you bring us on board to ensure that whatever is provided can enable the member states, states like Uganda, to achieve what we are planning to do in the sector of housing and also planning? We developed a program. The UN Habitat is a witness, which we want to pilot right now, which is called BCROP, Building Climate Resilience with the Urban Poor. Kenya is leading this program, but we are requesting for assistance to enable us, the 14 pilot member states, to take on this project to see how we can improve the livelihood, the planning, the administration, the governance of the local people who form majority of the population staying in the informal sector, because we are saying 60% of people living in urban areas are staying in the informal sector. But now here we are with a project that has been designed well, and we are looking for ways of kickstarting it so that it can roll out even to member states. I want to thank you for this opportunity and thank you once again.
Thank you very much. So that concludes our session with the national governments, and we heard about the call for tangible and meaningful results, as well as meaningful partnerships prioritized to different needs of cities. Let me now pass the chair to my colleague Lynn, who will bring in the local leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. So very much in the spirit of this multi-level approach that we've been talking about at COP29, and very much in the spirit of CHAMP and MAP, we're now going to, the subnational leaders will now talk. And can I just ask you to keep your interventions as brief as possible? So can I please hand the floor to the Mayor of Chefchaouen of Morocco?
Thank you very much, Chair, Excellencies, colleagues, and fellow climate leaders. It's an honor for me to speak to you today as Mayor of the city of Chefchaouen, intermediary blue city in Morocco, and committed in green, and so as GCOM, ICLE, and UCLG. Finance is crucial for us in cities. For several years from now, we have been declaring our commitment to climate change and sustainability. We have joined the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. We have developed the Chefchaouen 2030 vision and the Climate Action Plan using a participatory approach. And we have started to implement this action plan. But implementation requires very substantial funding, which is why we are adopting multi-level governance in Morocco to finance our projects. For example, the General Direction of Territorial Collectivity, DGCT, from the Minister of Interior is providing us with a great deal of support for several of our projects in areas such as drinking water, wastewater, sustainable energy, waste management, etc. But access to international climate finance is very difficult, particularly for intermediary cities in the Global South. At the global level, less than 10% of climate finance goes to the local level, and less than 20% for this climate finance goes towards adaptation. In my city, Chefchaouen, I can cite two successful examples of pilot projects that have had access to international finance, such as the GAP Fund for Waste Management with the support of the DGCT and GCOM, and multilateral banks as World Bank, EBRD, European Investment Bank, German government, etc. And another project is the public lighting with innovative funding without the guarantee of the national government from the UN Capital Development Fund and the DGCT. Thanks to this funding, Chefchaouen has become one of the first cities in Africa to have a smart network using 100% LED technology, which consumes less energy and produces less emissions. In conclusion, I can say that it's so important to review the mechanism for access to finance, to international finance for cities, and to support them with technical assistance that can help them to present bankable projects. Multi-level actions remains essential to implement the climate agenda. And in this sense, the CHAMP initiative is crucial, and the role of networks and alliance of cities such as GCOM, ICLE, UCLG, C40, and all other members of local government and municipal authority is very important for supporting cities to access to international climate finance more easily. Finally, I can say in Morocco, the CHAMP, there were MOE, we will be saying it with the Minister of Interior and GCOM to implement CHAMP at the local level, and this will be before the end of the year, and we city we will be supported by this global initiative. Thank you very much. Shukran jazilan.
Thank you very much, Mayor. We now move swiftly on to the Mayor of Kloto in Togo. Thank you.
Merci. I speak in French. Chers hôtes distingués, chers collègues, je suis ravi d'être aujourd'hui au nom du Pacte mondial des maires, dont je suis membre du conseil d'administration, et en tant que président du Forum régional des maires de la COMESSA, ma ville, le Togo, ma ville Kloto 1 au Togo, et les autres villes d'Afrique subsaharienne sont confrontées à des problèmes similaires. L'accélération des catastrophes liées au changement climatique pose des défis importants à nos communautés. L'avenir de l'Afrique est celui du monde, puisque d'ici 2050, la population mondiale devait être africaine. L'Afrique subsaharienne subit déjà des pertes et des dommages importants liés au changement climatique. L'Afrique est prête à contribuer aux efforts mondiaux de décarbonation et dispose déjà d'un grand nombre de solutions, telles l'a souhaité le chef de l'État de mon pays qui a porté les couleurs tout récemment, la semaine dernière, à la COP ici. Mais pour que nos villes africaines puissent lutter contre les effets dévastateurs du changement climatique, une collaboration radicale est nécessaire. Une collaboration à tous les niveaux et dans tous les secteurs. Entreprises dans un esprit d'innovation, d'inclusion, avec une mentalité sur les solutions et la transparence. Les acteurs locaux ont des plans climatiques ambitieux, mais manquent souvent de financement et de soutien pour les mettre en œuvre. L'accès direct au financement climatique pour les villes, ainsi que la quantité et la qualité de financement doivent être améliorés pour renforcer la contribution majeure que les villes peuvent apporter en réponse à la crise climatique. Cela nécessite une refonte majeure du système financier mondial afin d'éliminer les obstacles qui empêchent le financement et le financement climatique pour atteindre les villes. Un renforcement des capacités des villes et des collectivités locales, mais aussi des outils et des systèmes en matière de financement des plans d'action pour le climat. Alors, les villes doivent être aussi capables de concevoir et de mettre en œuvre des projets qui intéressent le genre et qui intègrent les communautés sur l'ensemble du territoire. Un soutien accru aux banques publiques de développement et aux institutions de financement et de développement, y compris les banques de développement multilatérales. Lors de la COP29, les membres de la JICOM accueillent et célèbrent la coalition pour les partenariats multiniveaux de grande ambition pour l'action climatique approuvée par 74 pays qui s'engagent à travailler avec leurs gouvernements infranationaux pour développer, financer et mettre en œuvre des stratégies climatiques, en commençant par les CDN de 2025. L'initiative Chante est un outil important qui nous permet de renforcer notre coopération et de collaborer plus étroitement pour apporter ce financement nécessaire à nos communautés locales. Je vous invite donc tous à faire une pression pour renforcer la coopération en matière de financement pour que les pays africains puissent en profiter, car nous partageons le même ciel. Merci à vous.
Thank you very much. Can I just say that when you see my face on the screen, it means that you need to wrap up your intervention. Otherwise, people are going to be left out and not able to speak, and we don't want that. So moving on swiftly again, I now move to the representative of Yokohama, Japan.
Thank you. I'll keep my eye on the screen so I'll not beat your face. And distinguished participants, good afternoon. It is my great honor to participate in this important dialogue from the city of Yokohama, Japan, on behalf of my mayor. I would echo to what have been said by MDBs, mayors, and ministers of the critical importance of mobilizing climate finance through various channels. I'd like to give you one example in our city on the mobilization, which is on the installation of PV panels on the city's facilities. Until a few years ago, we installed PV panels by ourselves, so securing budget and human resources was quite challenging. Now, we call for tenders for PV panel installation. in which bidders will purchase and maintain the PV panels, so there's no extra expense from cities. The key is the discussion with the potential bidders so that our tender will be viable and feasible, and while ensuring the level playing field. This is the strength and advantage that cities have. We are the closest entity or practitioners to the local government, so we can discuss intensively to make our project viable and feasible, and leading the flow of climate finance. I think many cities around the world have many good examples, and we would like to learn from each other's experience. In this regard, we held 13th Asian Smart City Conference at the Green Hub in Asia last month in Yokohama. And now we will hold Green Expo 2027 to showcase the solutions to decarbonization, circular, and nature-positive economies. Lastly, I take this opportunity to re-emphasize Yokohama City's unwavering commitment to scale up and speed up our climate actions to achieve 1.5 degrees target in solidarity with the global communities, no matter what happens. Paris Agreement is the wisdom of humanity, and there should be no turning back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and for keeping to time. We will have time for all speakers. So we'll move on now to the representative from São Paulo, Brazil. Thank you.
Bom dia a todos. Sou Marisa Barros, sou subsecretária de Energia e Mineração, represento a Secretaria de Meio Ambiente, Infraestrutura e Logística do Estado de São Paulo. É uma honra estar aqui. Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity. No Brasil, nós temos 3 níveis de governança nacional, estadual e municipal, todos independentes, nem sempre coordenados e com diferentes características. O Estado de São Paulo possui um plano de ação climática, um plano de energia e um plano de adaptação e resiliência, mas não é a realidade de todos os entes subnacionais. Em cada ente subnacional, há também diferenças significativas entre os governos locais. É importante entender essa peculiaridade. Somente no estado de São Paulo temos 645 municípios, com a conta de perdas e danos atinge diretamente essa parcela da população vulnerável. São municípios com diferentes níveis de desenvolvimento econômico e vulnerabilidade às mudanças climáticas. É fato que cidades e estados, por meio da sua capilaridade, podem acelerar a implementação das medidas de mitigação e adaptação para combater as mudanças climáticas. Já foi reconhecido isso na fala de muitos dos senhores e senhoras aqui. Municípios e estados podem tornar os espaços urbanos mais sustentáveis, mas, de fato, não conseguem fazer isso sozinhos. Projetos de eficiência energética, transporte de baixo carbono e outros são necessidades, principalmente infraestruturas mais resilientes. Aproveitando aqui a oportunidade, a presença de representantes dos bancos multilaterais, queria registrar aqui que é necessário criar mecanismos para tornar o acesso dos governos locais, municipais e estaduais. Esse acesso precisa ser mais ágil. Redução de assimetria de informação, 3 pontos aqui que eu queria destacar para fechar a minha fala. Redução de assimetria de informação. Essa informação alcançar diretamente os entes subnacionais é fundamental. São esses entes que estão mais perto dos governos locais e sabem onde estão as necessidades reais. Assistência técnica para modelagem de parceria público-privada e assistência técnica para a melhoria da condição de pagamento desses municípios. Passamos por um desastre climático em 2023, houve a remoção da população vulnerável das áreas de risco e a entrega de 704 moradias em 10 meses. E eu queria falar isso aqui por quê? Porque foi por meio da parceria público-privada que a gente tem ouvido aqui também nessa mesa, que foi o meio mais eficaz para dar celeridade e é nesse modelo que nós estamos apostando. Então, o Estado de São Paulo está pronto para ampliar o diálogo com os bancos multilaterais, otimizar a aplicação dos recursos para financiamento climático urbano e avançar na transição energética sustentável, segura e justa e também na adaptação e resiliência climática. Muito obrigada mais uma vez. Desejo uma excelente COP a todos.
Thank you very much, Sampalo. I now move to our final speaker. It's the representative from North Kestevan and Lancashire in the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and good afternoon, everybody. I would like to cover a few points. Firstly, I'm here representing the CEMR, the Council of European Municipalities and Regions, as well, and we've just produced our sum total of all our thoughts into 2 documents, one of which you've got on your table, In Solidarity of a Green World, and also this other small card, which gives you the whole document. So we have 130,000 cities and regions across the whole of Europe, and we've put all that together. One of the things that we thought was really important is that in our position statement, we've covered our road to decarbonisation, and it covers that we need a multi-level governance to co-create solutions at local level, localise the Sustainable Development Goals, and enable cities and regions to access the finance needed. We need to seize the transformative force of existing financial mechanisms with blended finance and more innovative solutions. So we add a call also to localise the Sustainable Development Goals so that the European territories are localised down to our local authorities, and that we've also gone on to develop the CHAMPs with the 74 countries that have signed so far. I'm pleased also to report that the heads of government of the 56 Commonwealth countries have also reaffirmed their declaration on sustainable development, strengthening our endorsement. So we have big targets, but we need to take people with us, or the kickback may derail the whole. So we must make sure that we do co-create those solutions, that they bring local benefits with a sense of local ownership, and co-production of the energy plans to decide on locations for wind farms or energy so that it's on roofs rather than on farmland. And then innovative ideas for funding where we can attract local entrepreneurs or local people to make sure that they are tied in to whatever we're creating, and that therefore gives us a much better long-term security of support. So financing the local transition to climate neutrality will require mobilising the national and EU budgets with private finance and partners in a multi-level approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for wrapping up at my request. So we have now finished the interventions of the local government, and just 3 things that chimed with me going through that. First of all, the importance of getting finance to the subnational governments. Second, the role of us, the MDBs, in that, and also this resilience angle as well came through. So I'm moving now to the last segment of speakers. So this is the bilateral donors, the funds, the philanthropists, and the private sector key. And first of all, can I call on the Adaptation Fund, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Thank you to the organizers of this very important event, including the COP presidency, and for their efforts in highlighting the importance of adaptation in the urban environment. It's inspiring to be at this event and witness the action and the commitment at multiple levels on the challenges posed by climate change in the urban environment, and in particular the efforts and commitments by local governments and stakeholders. At the Adaptation Fund, we are witnessing rising demand for projects related to adaptation and urban development, which relate to deploying innovative solutions to a multitude of risks, from water shortages to heat waves to flood risks, especially in sinking coastal areas. The Adaptation Fund Urban Portfolio utilizes several approaches to support long-term resilience, including disaster risk reduction, nature-based solutions, small-scale infrastructure, institutional strengthening and finance, capacity building, awareness raising, and information sharing. The Adaptation Fund's second medium-term strategy puts a strong focus on enabling locally-led adaptation, and we are proud to be the first multilateral climate fund to have operationalized locally-led adaptation and recently opened new funding modalities to facilitate a more direct access to local actors, including cities and local governments. The fund is also pleased to be collaborating with UN Habitat as a multilateral implementing entity, supporting countries in developing and implementing impactful projects. In closing, we look forward to continuing our support and engagement for a more resilient urban environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now hand the floor to Bloomberg Philanthropies. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I represent the Sustainable Cities team at Bloomberg Philanthropies, where we support efforts around the world to cut emissions in cities and help subnational leaders attract and access climate financing through support of partners like C40 and GCOM. By supporting local climate projects, philanthropy can create a strong foundation that attracts additional funding, enabling us to scale up these solutions and amplify their impact. Through the Coalition for High Ambition Multi-Level Partnerships, or CHAMP, 74 countries pledged to include local governments in their national climate plans, invest in subnational climate projects, and implement actions in local communities and cities. CHAMP-aligned mayors and governors are advocating for the COP29 outcomes to reflect the spirit of CHAMP and advance the global stocktake outcome. At the U20 summit last week, local leaders announced the call for national governments and MDBs to invest $800 billion every year by 2030 in climate solutions, urban solutions, and to spend 40% of that new concessional funding on those most impacted by the climate crisis, the most at risk where adaptation actions can make a critical difference. The urban climate investment gap is estimated to be $4.5 trillion in full, so this call for $800 billion in public funding represents roughly 20% of that, because public investment has the potential to stimulate private investment. And the return on this investment could be massive. On the pathway from where we are today to the future we hope for, implementing actions in cities could get us 40% of the way there in terms of emissions reductions. As the parties here at COP29 work toward an agreement of a new collective quantified goal, local leaders are urging the public investment sector to mobilize this funding to support our global climate goals, especially in global south regions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next is the Green Climate Fund.
Thank you, Chair, and Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'd like to share 3 messages on behalf of the Green Climate Fund. First of all, the cities, buildings, industries, and appliances is one of the Green Climate Fund's result areas, emphasizing climate action needs and opportunities in urban settings. In addition, we also have 3 additional results areas related to energy generation, sustainable transport, and resilient infrastructure, which also contribute to the actions related to cities. We have committed to more than $7 billion for 100 projects related to these results areas, and also mobilize significant amount of co-financing for actions related to cities. The second message is the GCF employs a strategic approach and partnership, especially working with our partners in MDBs and the private sector to bridge the climate action and finance gap. The projects are supported through financing instruments ranging from equities, loan guarantees, and grants. We have a few examples of innovative instruments related to cities. For example, the most recent one, the Debt for Climate Swap with the Inter-American Development Bank for Barbados water sector resilience. Energy service or savings insurance program, again, for Latin American countries. And also supporting the early warning systems for cities in Philippines.
Please? We've been told unexpectedly that we need to vacate the room very, very soon. So we have Jeff, GIZ, the MF Group, and the Development Guarantee Group, and it would be good if they could just make a statement for 1 minute each. I do apologize, this was unforeseen.
Okay, if I can conclude that
We also offer readiness support grants, which can support cities in developing their climate strategies, improving their capacities, and also develop projects, climate projects, which they can bring to GCF through the national accredited entities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, GCF. Over now to Jeff, the Global Environmental Facility. You just have 1 minute, and I do apologize.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Recognizing the potential of cities to achieve climate goals and the barriers they face, the Global Environment Facility launched its Sustainable Cities Program in 2016. Since then, the program has provided over $450 million in grant funding to support climate action in more than 90 cities across 33 countries. The program has also established a global knowledge and coordination platform led by the World Bank in collaboration with other NDBs, city networks, and UN agencies. Addressing the financing gap in cities is a top priority for the program. Over $5 billion in co-financing has been mobilized in JEF-supported cities through strategic blending of JEF resources with NDB loans and grants, along with value-added technical assistance for national urban infrastructure investment. The global platform also collaborates with project preparation facilities like the C40 Financing Facility and ICLEI, and organizes investment roundtables to connect cities with potential investment authorities. Finally, we wanted to conclude that grants have been provided for various demonstration projects, and we also have provided support for development of policies and regulations that enable public-private partnerships in urban sustainability solutions. We look forward to continue the collaboration with partners and the mainstreaming of climate and nature considerations in future urban growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. GIZ, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, Co-Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to bring in a little bit of implementing perspective from GIZ side. It's a federally owned organization by the German administration. Let me draw your attention to quite a number of successful initiatives we do have. It's the C40 Cities Finance Facility, for instance. It's the Covenant of Mayors in Sub-Saharan Africa, and it's the City Climate Finance Gap Fund that has been already mentioned by the European Investment Bank. The unique thing about all this is a close combination and interconnection of, financing instruments, financing mechanisms, and capacity development. And this is really key to bring both together, because finance alone won't make it, and we have to build upon our good experiences and lessons learned in that respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Penultimate speaker, MF Group, please.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here speaking. I'll try not to repeat what we've already heard. EMIF Group is a fund partnered with UN Habitat through the city's investment facility to catalyze more bankable infrastructure projects for sustainable development. I think the points that I would like to bring together after the last 10 days here is, I think we need to do all a better job to define what private capital means. We've done a great job at bringing in the MBDs, all the development banks, sovereign, and we've definitely defined the need for sub-sovereign and urban sustainable development. But I think we overuse the term crowding in private capital and what those entities look like, how big they are, and what scale they are interested in. I think one of the things we need to remember is every project, from the end of the technical assistance through to a bankable, which means going to tender, will cost a city or whoever the group's involved in $2 to $3 million minimum, and at scale that becomes very difficult to carry. So that's certainly one of the things we're addressing, but de-risking a project until it is bankable, going to tender, and being built. It's a short gap, but it is a very deep and expensive and high expertise gap, and I think that we would do us all a favor by focusing on that coming into COP next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, and 1 minute please, the Development Guarantee Group.
Okay, thank you very much.
The Development Guarantee Group is a private sector platform that partners with the public sector to develop new guarantee solutions which can mobilize private sector finance to deliver the SDGs. As others have mentioned today, there are significant challenges facing cities, particularly around their creditworthiness. That means that they are considered by investors to be not investment grade. Guarantees can help, and they can actually help solve the problem. It has also been mentioned that cities typically rely on sovereign guarantees. This becomes a challenge for cities because that takes them into the realm of political agendas and priorities, which the central government may not be able to support. This is where the Development Guarantee Group is working. For example, we are partnering with the Green Climate Fund, the governments of the United Kingdom, Norway, the United States, and Nigeria to develop the Green Guarantee Company, which is launched this year. We are looking to work with cities around the world to help bring global investment into their climate projects. Equally, we are advising the Global Commission for Urban Finance on the development of a Green Cities Guarantee Fund for Latin America, which again is going to look at building domestic municipal markets. Ultimately, what we're hoping is that
I have to interrupt because we are being told to leave the room, and we have one final statement before we wrap up. And this is from Chile, Ms. Marjorie Kaufman, the State Secretary from Brazil. If I can hand the floor.
Boa tarde a todos. É uma honra estar aqui falando em nome do Rio Grande do Sul, também do ICLEI e da LGM, que representam governos locais subnacionais. Eu vou usar o exemplo do estado do Rio Grande do Sul, que em maio deste ano sofreu a sua maior catástrofe climática, com 95% dos seus municípios atingidos. Nós criamos um plano Rio Grande. Este plano é um excelente exemplo de conexão entre todas as pastas e busca reunir projetos estruturantes e projetos essenciais à resiliência do Estado e dos municípios. Eu já conversei com alguns bancos e ressalto isso. O que os municípios e os estados precisam é assistência técnica além de financeira. Então, precisamos de apoio para poder implementar as metas do CHAMP e conseguirmos executar as NDCs que são assumidas pelas nações. Muito obrigada.
Finally, Chile, 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. We have delved deeply into some of the most pressing issues surrounding urban climate finance. Cities, as we've heard, are at the forefront of the climate crisis, responsible for a significant portion of global emissions, but also uniquely positioned to lead the way in driving solutions. Throughout our discussion, several key themes have emerged that we must carry forward. First, partnerships are the foundation of success. The scale of the urban climate challenge demands collaboration that transcends sectors, levels of government, and borders. Second, we have reaffirmed the transformative role of multilateral development banks and development finance institutions. We need financing models that are not only accessible to cities, but also aligned with their unique capacities and needs. Third, we have explored how climate finance facilities and blended finance approaches can unlock untapped potential. Instruments such as Global Infrastructure Facility, Climate Investment Funds, and the Green Climate Fund are critical enablers of change. Fourth, the private sector remains an underutilized partner in urban climate action. We must do more to incentivize private finance to flow into urban climate projects, ensuring that cities can implement innovative solutions at scale. Finally, we must ensure that urban climate finance is embedded strategically within NDCs. Embedding urban green projects into NDCs will not only help secure financing, but also ensure that these projects are implemented in a way that advances the Paris Agreement goals. Thanks.
Thank you very much for those concluding remarks. So the conversation and the action continues, and we will be presenting the key outcomes of this high-level discussion. Thank you very, very much for joining and for keeping your interventions prompt.